saw something out of the corner of my eye off the side of the road in a culvert. And sure enough, there was 2 feet prints on either side of this hole.
We heard an absolute inhuman noise.
I freaked. I panicked. When that thing come out from behind a tree, it scared the hell out of me, and I just said, I'm not going back down there.
You're listening to the Skunk Ape Files. And now, here are your hosts, Stacy Brown Jr. and Paul Sanson.
Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the Skunk Ape Files. I am Stacy Brown Jr.
And I'm Paul Sanson.
And we are basically going to be bringing you all the skunk ape information that you may want. While Bigfoot may be a very popular topic, his little cousin to the south gets forgotten about for the most part. Well, we're here to fill you in. We're going to be bringing in authors, researchers, eyewitnesses, and anybody basically who knows something that you may want to know about the Florida skunk ape. And one of the coolest parts that we got coming up is going to be, we're going to do some of these from the field.
Yep. Get out there, recap what happened, when nights we have good activity or something like that, we'll do recaps, and we'll just do interviews out there, with bugs going off behind us and whatever, Just make it interesting.
Yeah, and once we can get, maybe we can find a place with some service, and we could even do a live stream, Skunk Ape Files podcast. It would be cool to have like a Joe Rogan-ish setup, live streaming that. Yeah,
it would be definitely Joe Rogan-ish, like big on the ish.
Yeah, big on the ish. We're just two unfuckable white dudes, so.
Two unfuckable juniors.
Yeah, that's almost what this show was called.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess without further delay, let's go ahead and bring on our first guest. His name is James Hopkins. He's from Myakka City, Florida, or at least that's where his encounter happened. And his encounter is unique because it's kind of terrifying, and it's not one a lot of people have. You're really not going to talk to somebody who has an encounter like this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get Mr. James. James, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Long day.
So, man, you want to tell us who you are, where you're from, and you got the floor, man. Just we'll stop you if we got a question, but I'm just gonna let you go with it.
Okay. Yeah, my name is James Hopkins. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, raised in New Orleans, and moved to Florida around the age of, I believe, 16. Graduated high school in Venice, Florida, in 98 or 97, somewhere around there. So my father's a Grand Master, martial artist, and I met one of my best friends there. His name was Andy Brown, and he was a kickboxer. He trained there, and I moved from New Orleans and met my father, and I ended up training there. Stayed there from there. So Andy lived out in Myakka Estates. Now this is really close to the Myakka State Park. And as kids, we used to go out there, and his parents didn't really care about what we did. Like, we can drink, and as long as we're drinking, we do whatever out there. It's country. It's nothing out there but country.
Right.
So sometimes we'd go around on the 3-wheeler and explore. One time we found this long trail, and it was just hidden. And we went down this trail, and it goes for a while. I'm going to say for about a mile. And when you get to the end of it, there's this clearing that was been made out. And you could tell that people have camped in this area before. And I'm going to say it's probably about 50 feet. And then you have a river. It was a river on that embankment. It was around 75 feet, maybe 100 feet long, wide across, if I can remember correctly. And on the other side, there was a bunch of woods there.
So is this the Myakka River?
Yeah, I believe it was the Myakka River, actually.
Right on.
Yeah, probably was the Myakka River. So it's me, Andy Brown, and Brian Hampson. Those were the other guys that were with me. We went camping, brought a tent, all our gear, and we drove out there on a three-wheeler. I did 2 trips. Brought one person at a time. So we're out there, and it's nighttime. We're drinking beer, and out of nowhere, I just hear this. All of us hear it. It was a sound like nothing I've heard before. And it was like, the only way I can explain the sound is like it was mixed with a bear, an ape, and a big cat. It was just like, wow.
Right.
And it was like nothing I've ever heard. I looked at my friends and said, I watched the Discovery Channel. I ain't never heard no shit like that. I've seen lots of animals. I've been around people that work in the circus. I ain't never heard nothing like that. And everybody else didn't hear it. Everybody else, too, was like, what was that? We couldn't identify it. The sound was, it wasn't no whooping. It wasn't nothing. It was just a really aggressive roar. And it had like I said, like a cat sound at the end of it. Anyways, we freak out. We're like, what the hell is that? And some people, like, they say, like, they get their shit and they go investigate. Nuh-uh.
Right.
No, it wasn't happening, because I was like, whatever that is, it is big, it echoed, and it is close. All 3 of us jump on my three-wheeler. We leave all my camping stuff behind. We don't even care. We're just trying to get out of there. So, and the three-wheeler, it's a three-wheeler. It had one little light in the front, and we're driving down this mile pathway with 3 people on a little three-wheeler.
Right.
And we hear in the woods something running through the trees, keeping up with us. And everybody's freaking out. Everybody's like, you hear that? And yeah, we all hear it. So we're all like, we're like freaking out. The only thing we brought with us was our weapons. So like I'd always carry a sword with me, a ninja tail with a straight sword. And Andy would carry a sword as well. And then we had some other little weapons like bear claws and stuff like that. But anyways, out there, the houses are far apart. Sometimes it's like a half a mile to the next house and someone out there in this area.
Right.
So I'm like, where can we go? Where's the first place can we go? So I can't remember the girl's name, but Andy knew this girl. They were sisters. They lived out there on this little ranch. So we headed there, and I remember it's a full moon that night. So it was super bright out. And when we pulled up to the property, we ditched my three-wheeler in the bushes. I just drove it into the bushes. Her mom had a house, and on the side of the house, there was a 2-story building. Well, her one daughter that we was going to go see, she stayed at the top. And then the bottom, her mom had like kilns and ceramics, so she must have done like that type of stuff. I don't know.
Right.
So we walk up to the top, we knock on the door, and she's like, you guys can't be here. The girl was like, my mom will kill me if she finds out there's 3 guys here. And this is like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, we're telling her. We're like, listen, there's something out there, and we're telling her about it, and she just thinks we're full of it, And then my friend Brian is at the window, and she had a big field coming up that driveway. He goes, there's a drunk guy running around out in your field. And we're like, what? So we all go to the window, and there it is. It's running in a circle. Don't know why. Big strides. And I already noticed it was abnormal. And long arms. And then it ran up to the shed. It ran in circles. It did like 3 laps, I'm going to say. I don't know why it was doing that. And then it ran up to the shed. There was a shed right at the fence line.
The shed that y'all were in?
No, there was a shed outside.
Oh, okay.
Like we're facing out the window. There was a shed. It was right in the front of her. It was, probably 100 yards from, maybe a little bit less, from the window. And when it ran up to the shed, It was as tall as a shed. Shed's a 7-foot shed.
Right.
So how much of this thing could you see?
I could see the whole left side of it. Because it was looking at me from that side. And it didn't look like pictures like I see. It looked like a prehistoric orangutan, but it was more hairy. It had like orangutan features in the face. It had like big cheeks, and it was furry. And we all freaked out. Andy Brown, the dude that wasn't scared of nothing, he was in the corner shaking. Couldn't get him up. I'm like, Andy, come over here and look at this shit. And he's like, no, man, I seen it. No, I don't know what that is, man. And he's like freaking out in the corner. So she's scared now.
Right.
So now the fear of even leaving the building to go into the house, because we backed up, and when we went back to the window, it wasn't there. It wasn't, and when we were out there, we smelt something before the roar. It smelled like skunk and death. It smelled like skunky smell, but also smelled like something that had died. Like this thing either rolls around in its kill or hangs around it or something. I don't know. It's a really rotten smell. And it was violent. It was not nice. It was not kind. It followed us all the way there. It had to be over, I'm going to say almost 2 miles. It kept up with a 3-wheeler that went about 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
With 3 people on it.
Now, I guess y'all did feel in danger. You think if this thing could have caught you, it would have hurt you? Or do you think it didn't catch you? Like, what was your feeling? Did you feel that if this thing could have, it would have caught you? Or do you think it tried to catch you and y'all just got away from it?
This is what happened. We started hearing creaking noises up them steps. She had no lock on that door. It's just a door had a handle. That's it. Just opened. And that's why we didn't leave the house and run into her mom's house. And she was going to, she wasn't even worried about getting in trouble anymore at this point. This is abnormal. And the whole thing, this girl would be like, y'all got to leave. You know what I mean? She's seen it, and she knew, and she wasn't going out that door. And we kept on hearing up them wooden steps. And I told everybody in that room, I said, listen, that thing comes in this room. I said, don't run out of this room. It's going to get one of us. I said, if that's the case, if that thing comes in here, it's coming in here. And if it gets one of us, you don't want to be you, and we all run away.
Right.
And that's why I said, everybody was there. I said, you don't want to be the one stuck, and we all leave. It could be any one of us. And that's if any of us can even get out of this room. I said, the best thing we can do is take these swords and stab through its chest area or through its back area, toward the heart and lungs. I said, that's it.
Oh,
and
so this was
stabbing.
This was actually to the point where you were making a defense.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
We thought we were going to have to start stabbing this thing. Everybody laughed at this. My mom, everybody thought this shit was funny. And then Unsolved Mystery shows up, and this woman, they have pictures of it. She took pictures. She called the police department and said, there's a gorilla in my backyard. And my mom was screaming. She's like, get in here. She goes, look, this was in Myakka, Florida. And this woman's taking pictures. There it was. And looked just like that. It was an orangutan. It looked like an orangutan. And it's behind palmetto bushes. And you can see that its mouth opens and closes, and there's flash in the eye. And I said, that's what it looked like. I said, the face looked kind of like that creature right there.
But it stood about 7 foot tall?
Yeah, when it stood up, yep. When it stood all the way up. And the head kind of canoed at the top. It was kind of like...
It had like a crest on the top of the skull? Okay.
That was a weird thing. It had a crest. So and it was really hairy all over, except for the facial features.
Right.
And the hands were black. I mean, you could see that. And, I mean, I couldn't see the feet in the grass. I mean, it was a freshly cut, field, but, one of those little sheds you just would put your lawnmowers and stuff in.
Yeah.
Well, right at, if it is as tall as that, is the crest of that. So that's about, I'm going to say 7 foot.
Wow. Now, what do you think y'all did to piss this thing off?
I think it wasn't us. I think that because there's been people out there before. And there's people that shot at these things. There's people that mess with these things. And I know when we get there, we always had to pick up trash. You know, it's probably is a dislike for humans because of what they do out there in the woods. They just don't care. They throw their garbage in the water. I mean, if it's my clue at all, this is my home and you're coming and you're invading it and you're destroying my area. Who knows? Maybe it got a hold of some crap people left behind and it got one of its younger ones sick. I mean, I don't have a clue. All I know is it did not want us there. And, that was just that was the first thing that happened.
Right.
How far from where you guys ran from to where you were in the house or whatever it was, the shed?
What's that again?
How far from where it first screamed at you and then you ran to the shed?
I'm gonna say from the shed to that little house, I said it couldn't be no more than 100 yards.
Do you think that lady had seen it before, or that she'd had more activity on her property?
We never spoke to her again.
Oh, yeah.
She asked us not. Her mom told us to never come back to that house. The next morning, she got grounded. She was done. She didn't come out of her house for a month. She was grounded. Her mom was like, "What the hell's going on? Why is there 3 guys in the bedroom?" And we tried telling her, and she was like, she cursed us out. She's like, "Get your shit and get off of my property." And we all got on the 3-wheeler. We went back to the campsite to go get my stuff, and all the shit was destroyed. My tent was completely destroyed. The coolers were ripped open. The food was ripped open. Packages were ripped open. Stuff was missing. It was just any kind of drinks that were there, like the cans and stuff. Some of them were smashed. So it wasn't like some people found it, because they would have at least taken the beers and drank them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think there was more than one of them there, or just that one?
No, I just think it was that one. I think it was. I know, as crazy as it sounds. I mean, there's only one I seen. I mean, I guess over time of knowing these things and how they can camouflage themselves behind trees, they don't want to be seen. They're not going to be seen. So that's a fact. This thing wanted to be seen, and it wanted to let us know it was there, and it was very frightening. And it was hard to go out in those woods for a little while again, but then we started getting curious. And we started going out in the woods looking for stuff in the daytime, not at night.
In the same area?
Yeah, around that area. And sometimes we catch ourselves trotting through people's fields. Like sometimes it would just be connected. Like there was like this moat, and we'd cross it, and there'd be a fence, and we'd jump it. We didn't know where we're at. We're just going through these fields. But this time we have guns.
Right.
We don't have swords. We got guns. So as crazy as this might sound, so this is probably, I'm gonna say about a year later, maybe a little bit longer. So we never ran into anything like that again out there. But one night, it was nighttime this time, and I don't know if I want to. It is a long story behind why we were out there in the first place. We went out into this. We're in this field. In this cow field, and there was this patch of shrubbery, and now 3 people seen this as well. It was me, Ryan Gray, and Tom Eaton. Those were the 3 people, and all of us together. Right. Andy did not go. Andy said, "I'm not going out there at night." So we went out, and we heard some dogs barking, so immediately we started running. Cause we're like, "Oh shit!" Because people don't keep their dogs on leashes out there. We seen we didn't want to get chewed up by dogs, so we ended up in this patch. It was a big field, and then there was a bunch of shrubbery. And I don't know if this has anything to do with the sightings or what kind of animal that is out there. But just recently, I just rediscovered what we've seen then. So we seen these lights, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "We're still young," and I'm like, "That's a helicopter looking for kids looking for mushrooms." That's what we were thinking because we're out in a cow field. So we think this is a helicopter looking for kids because it's low, and we think it's looking for kids doing bad shit. So there was there's bushes and trees and little palm frond areas, and it was no more than 25, 30 feet thick, and it was not very much. I mean, maybe, I don't know, 200 yards of it, and we're ducking behind it. And there's a couple trees in between, and we're just trying to duck down. Well, all of a sudden, we realize this thing ain't making no noise. All of us realize this. Then it gets down like to the height of a telephone pole, and it's just moving sideways, and it has 3 lights. It's triangular shaped, and we all lose our shit. And we head back. We run back. After it moved down to the right, we started running. We got back to Andy's house, and we told him, "Oh my God, we just seen a UFO." And he's like, "You guys are crazy. You guys are eating mushrooms." We're like, "Dude, no, we're not. We seen it." And now this TR-3B started surfacing, and it's the same exact shape. It has the 3 lights on it. It was triangular, and it moves the same exact way. It rotates and it moves. So I don't know if they're doing genetic stuff out there with animals. I don't know, because it's not like your regular Bigfoot. This thing, it was like an orangutan. It had like an orangutan type face to it.
Right.
And I know this UFO shit sounds crazy, but this stuff happened out there.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, see, I was wanting to ask you what you had a feeling that this thing was flesh and blood, or did you ever feel it was connected to anything else? Because depending on who you talk to, you get a different explanation as to what these things actually are.
Yeah, they think there's like Wendigo type spirit creatures who can move in and out through dimensions or time. No, it wasn't that. This thing was solid. It was real. It was an animal. There's no doubt about it. You hear branches breaking as you're running, and you're on a 3-wheeler, and you hear something running through those woods next to you, and you hear crack, smash, crunch. There's something running next to you, and it's not a deer. Because why would it be running in your direction? It would be running away from you.
Right.
It wasn't until we got out on the street and made a hard right. When we got on that road, I was able to start picking up speed.
How far do you think you were from the campsite to the girl's house?
Oh, like I said, at least a mile and a half, 2 miles.
Oh, and it chased you the majority of the time.
The pathway was almost a mile long, if I had to say that. So, like going down that trail is about a mile long, and it takes a while to get down there, even on the 3-wheeler.
Right.
It take you about 20 minutes because it's uneven and it's trees and the dips in the road. It's a 3-wheeler, and you don't want to end up crossing your front wheel and landing in your face, so, and you're carrying somebody on the bike with you. So carrying 2 people on the bike, we had to bog down because I was like, "I'll come back and get you." And Brian was like, "No way, dude." And he jumped on. He goes, "I'll get on the handlebars." He was straight up. He was like, "I am not staying here at this campsite until you drop Andy off." And I was like, "All right, get on." And we left, and I couldn't blame him.
Wow.
I didn't know the bike. I didn't even know the bike was going to be able to carry everybody. I just said, "Let's go. Grab the weapons, and that's it. Leave everything else behind."
Right.
I wasn't going to leave my weapons out there,
Yep.
It's folded, sword.
Yeah.
Folded steel sword. I'm not leaving it behind. No, this thing has been spotted out there before.
Okay. That's the next thing I was going to ask you is, has anybody else ever seen it in this same area?
Yeah, Andy's mom said she's seen it when they're coming home late night at the bridge. And the dad said he's seen it too. They said it was on the side of the road when they came over the bridge. She was going to write a book about it. But I don't know if she ever did or not. Her name was Sandra Brown.
Right.
She lives in North Carolina now with Andy. But they said they came over the bridge and they seen this thing bent over, hunched over. They thought it was a pig at first, rooting through the side by the bridge.
Right.
And there's a water underneath. And I don't think that's a Myakka. That's just a runoff. Then it stood up halfway, kind of looked at them, and then ran down into the gully. But that was after we told her our story. You know what I mean? So like I didn't witness her story.
Yeah.
She just claimed her and him her and him claim that, but they always seem like nonchalant about it to me. Like, oh, weird things are out there. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's odd when you have people who just don't make nothing of it, you know. And that's the way some people are, though. They see these things and it's like, oh yeah, they're there. Because when I had encounters, it's a big deal to me.
Heart's pounding.
Exactly.
You don't know what that is. And if it's a gorilla or an ape, it will tear you apart. Even a chimpanzee out in the forest would scare the shit out of me, dude.
Oh
if
yeah.
I seen a chimpanzee coming out of a tree,
Oh yeah.
that thing will tear you apart. And
Yeah.
they go after your face and your hands first, and your genitals. They just rip you apart like that. So, and that thing is much bigger than a man, and it was husky, and it was built. And I don't know if that's because of all the fur. I can't tell you how big it was underneath of all that. Wasn't a man in a suit, because his arms were down by its knees almost. Well, his hands were definitely by his knees.
Right.
You know, that's what I knew was wrong when it was running around in the field, because the gape it had in this run, it was huge. I could never go back out there and look at anything. We couldn't go back out there and find footprints. We weren't allowed back on the property, so we weren't allowed to go back out there and look, because we're like, we need to go back out there and see if we can find something, because it was there. At the campsite, there was nothing there. We looked everywhere. We looked for footprints. We looked for anything. Everything was just smashed. And then that was it. No footprints.
You would still go out there right now if you had the opportunity?
If I had the opportunity, if I could find it again.
Right.
If I was equipped. Yeah. If I had the opportunity and I was equipped, I would go out there.
Right on.
But I don't know if these things migrate. You know, like that's the thing. Like, we never seen it again. So, like, does these things stay on the move like a tiger? You know, like they just moved? Is that why they're so elusive? Because they're always on the move?
Do you know if the same people still own that place?
Say that again, buddy?
Do you know if the people that were when you were there and had that sighting do they still own the place?
Andy and them, they sold that house and they moved out. I think I can still find the house though.
Yeah.
I think I can still find that trail if it still exists. If it ain't patched over, it takes some driving around. It's pretty big in Myakka Estates, and right across from it's the Myakka State Florida park right there. It's massive.
Right. So are y'all off of the north end or the south end of the park?
Let's see. If you go all the way down that road, that's where the hurricane hit back in the day. Where was that at? You take the first exit to Sarasota, like you're going to be going to Siesta Key.
Right.
Then you make a right. You get off. There's a mobile gas station when you get off that exit, if you're coming from the south. Then you'll make a right and you'll go all the way down that road for a long time. I mean, I don't even know how many miles, but for a while.
Yeah, it's a good 30-minute drive out there from the interstate.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. We actually, there was a guy who had a sighting, I want to say 2013, when Mike Falconer got his footage. We went and did an investigation there immediately, and not only did the group I was with have an encounter, but it was funny because like it'd be sighted at this part of town one night, and then like about 10 miles away the next night. You know what I'm saying? And like these people were getting up with us, and it was a pattern, how the thing was moving around through the area. It was pretty cool, man, because at least for that 2-week period, we probably talked to 17 people, I think, that had seen it. You know, all at different times.
Out there in that area.
Yeah, and you know, so just like as you were saying, they move a lot. That's exactly what I believe they do. I don't really believe they're hanging out for more than 2 or 3 days, but they're, you know, can be in an area for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then they're gone.
Another weird thing we'd find out there, which is I always thought was odd, was trees. Palm trees would completely be uprooted, and the tops would be ripped out of them. I was like, this is weird. Like the root ball, everything. Like
we assume that that's what they're doing, is eating the cabbage palms.
Really?
Yeah, eating the palm heart side of them.
Oh shit.
So we find them, and they'll be like, because you can tell when a bear gets them, there'll usually be a good amount of blood because a bear's using his mouth for the most part, and those things are sharp. At least on your gums, you know, when the bear will be biting it. So they bleed all over the damn thing, and then there'll be scratches and stuff. But we find them where it's just like somebody grabbed the top of it and just twisted it till it came out. Till they
Yeah, that's what they look like. Everything's twisted up. All the branches are twisted. They look like they were turned in a circle like they twisted a head off or something. You know?
Exactly. That's exactly
Very
what it looks
powerful.
like.
It's very weird. I thought people were doing it.
Well, you got to think of the size person that could do that. Like, if you ever get a chance to try it, just seriously try to twist a palm heart out of a cabbage palm.
I cut trees for years. I just thought people were removing them to eat the cabbage hearts instead of buying them.
Right.
But I thought it was weird that the trees would be over. But that might. Wow.
Well, that's what we assume because that's of an abundance. You know,
means that thing don't even care about climbing a tree. Even if it's almost as tall as it, they just rip it out of the ground, throw it on the ground, and just pull it out then.
right.
Imagine the strength of that. God, that's hydraulic strength. Even my bucket truck couldn't even pull. My clam truck couldn't even pull a palm tree out of the ground like that with a clam. That's hydraulic strength, man.
So, let me ask you, do you think this UFO sighting, and because it was years apart from your Skunk Ape sighting, correct?
Yeah, it was.
Do you
It was the
think
day before 4th of July, actually.
do you think maybe they were somehow connected, or it's just, you know?
I think something was weird out there with that, and that's the thing. Everybody thought that was a joke as well. And then recently, I started getting videos and started seeing these videos of this TR-3B. And it has 3 lights, it's triangular shape, and it moved. And people catch this thing on camera all over the place. There's videos of it in Afghanistan, and there's American soldiers watching it blow up a whole village, and they're like, "Oh man, that was cool." You know, like you can see our Bradley there. That's our Bradley fighting vehicles, support vehicle for the Abrams. You can see that thing blowing up a village with one hit, and it's gone before the energy projectile hits the ground. Boom, gone. And then the guy in Paris filmed it up on the 40-something floor. He filmed the whole thing in the night vision. So I don't know if it's connected. I don't know what's out. I don't know if there's a military base close to that area.
I know there's one in Avon Park. I know there's a massive one there, and that shouldn't be that far of a flight. Okay, that should be maybe 10-minute flight, because it was about a 2-hour drive from Myakka City to Avon Park.
Yeah, there's one right in Tampa.
That thing will get there in a second if it wanted to, by the way we watch these videos, what they're capable of doing. You know, and I don't know if there's cow fields and the cows ending up dead, and, you know, the farmers finding these cows, and, you know, what's out there where cows are at. So I'm like, you know, like, what is this? Why is this out there? And then you know, just too much weird shit going on out there.
Well, you know, that's one thing that gets overlooked in Myakka City is the people. I don't know what they think when they think Florida, but like Myakka City is basically like a cow ranch. Like there's cow fields all over the place. That's basically all it is. There's a ton of isolated woods. But the cattle mutilations, that also goes on there. And, you know, I always was curious.
Chupacabra sightings, all that out there.
Well, I've never heard that, but they, you know, wouldn't doubt it, because the cattle mutilations I attributed to skunk apes, you know, because I've never talked with anybody that's seen a UFO out there. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It's just I just haven't talked to nobody. So it's interesting that you say you saw that out there, because the mutilations are pretty. It's like decapitations and stuff, you know. The
tongues are missing. The
organs are gone.
The rear end of the cow's always gone.
Right.
There's something weird with that. Don't know what that is about. I know it's not an alien spaceship. I know that's ours. I know that whatever that machine is, that they already found. I mean, you could do the research on yourself and find it. They found the Tesla patents on same exact formation of that thing and propulsion system, and it was all talked about. I mean, I watched the whole documentary because it intrigued me afterwards. I was like, wow, that is exactly the shape, and it moved like that, and it didn't make no noise, and it was no higher than, you know, the treetops. No noise, no wind, no nothing, just glided across the trees like it was nothing, and it had one light in the middle.
Same thing happened with the stealth bomber when it first, before it was, you know, they let it out of the bag. People were seeing it over in near Area 51 and all that, and then
In Harvey, on the West Bank, people were seeing stealth bombers that were flying over. People were calling the news, and it was on the news. These are new stealth airplanes. Like, we've seen them flying over the house because there's an Air Force base out there, but this thing is not like that. And no stealth fighter can just glide like that.
yeah.
And the jet propulsion makes noise and heat and all that. This thing doesn't do none of that.
Well, all the stuff that's been coming out recently about UFOs, and then the whole Bob Lazar when he was on Rogan, and he's had the same story for so many years, and all of it's coming to light now, or a lot of it's coming to light.
Bob Lazar,
He's crazy.
I remember I was in 9th grade when his element that he used to talk about became a real thing. You know, because I knew the Bob Lazar story. My dad was a UFO nut, and so when I remember when they were adding it, and I was like, you know what? What are the actual chances that this man said it was going to be coming, and what it was actually called, and then they just validate him, basically, because he called it by like over 10 years. It was like 12 years afterwards.
He told his friends to go out there on Wednesday and film because traffic was really light on those days, and they would test drive. He told his friends to go out there and film it, so people.
Oh yeah, and they did.
Film it.
Yeah.
That's how he ended up getting caught.
Yep, and that's why he said I have to tell the world because that's my only insurance policy. Because the only thing the government can do is dismiss me as crazy, and everybody will say I'm crazy, and I get to live.
Right.
Because that's what they always do. Oh, you're crazy, and once you're crazy, well, then what you say has no holding to it. You know.
Well, let me ask you something, because this is an ongoing theme with myself, with my father. I got a buddy, Jason Cupp. He's the same way. A lot of people that I know that have had skunk ape encounters or Bigfoot encounters have also had UFO encounters. I mean, most of the people that I personally know have had both.
Isn't that weird?
And it is. And so what do you think would be the reason for that? Is it almost people like that are more open, or, I mean, what would your thoughts be?
I think certain people shine. Yeah, I believe that. I believe these people also have spiritual ghost encounters. They see stuff they can't explain, mostly when they're kids, but then it goes away when they're adults, and they can only remember things that they seen when they're kids. Like, I've seen stuff when I was kids I can't explain, but I was too young to remember. My mom don't even know how I remember these things. She goes, you're only like 2 years old. How could you remember things from 2 years old? I'm like, I just do. So, I mean, are you more acceptable? I believe so. And is there a certain I mean, I'm sure everybody has a certain different frequency to them. I mean,
I've heard a lot about that. I've studied that. I'm actually currently studying some Aleister Crowley stuff just because it, interests me. But anything like this, kind of, if I see something and I go down that rabbit hole for 10 minutes, then I'm hooked for at least a good month. So.
Yeah, and here's a prime example of frequency. I was here at this house, and I'm on a little detailing business. Well, this guy wanted his truck done, and he had this other guy with him. And this guy just gave off a bad vibe. And my stepson was with me. And when they went away, I'm like, man, that guy just gave off a vibe I did not like. So we're cleaning the car. We're almost an hour into it. I looked up at my son, and I said, that guy must be close. I think that guy's somewhere around here. And he's like, why would you say that? He goes, I said, I don't know, I just feel it. No more than a couple seconds after I said that, he comes walking around the corner. "Hey man, I forgot my meth pipe in the glove box."
Damn.
This is what he said to me in front of my 16-year-old kid, dude.
God.
So
now that makes you look like a meth head to your kid. It's
no. He started asking, "You smoke?" I said, "Nah, bro." I said, "You need to get out." I said, "You need to get out of here. Don't come back to my house." And my son looked at me after he left. He goes, "How'd you know he was coming?" I said, "I felt him coming," and he was just blown away. If I had him on the phone right now, he could tell you all about it.
Wow.
He goes, "Wow, dude."
I was having that conversation with my girlfriend. It's like, like, because my kids, they'll try to startle me or something, so they try to come up behind me, but I can feel them. I can feel somebody getting up on me. I can feel somebody stepping close to me. Even if I can't see them, I can feel them. And my girlfriend thinks I'm, crazier than a shithouse rat, but that's the way it is.
Real. Yeah, there's a magnetic field around your body. You can feel frequency waves. I always believed that. And Timmy didn't understand it. And he's like, "Wow, is it because he was a bad person?" That's what he was asking me. I was 16 years old. I'm like, I don't think it's because he's a bad person. I think it is part of that, but I think his ill intention is so bad that I can feel that frequency. It does not match with mine. And I think these animals might feel the same when they get to some people. They might not like the way they are. That thing out there might have been cool with me, but that guy, Brian, he grew up to be a bad person. He grew up to do bad things. And, yeah, so maybe that was it. Maybe he's like, this guy, these guys don't belong here. This is even if, this is my area. Right. Or maybe he wanted to attack. I mean, whatever destroyed our campsite, it didn't take any beers, just smashed everything. Some of the food was gone.
Just more of a rage thing.
Yeah, the tent was just smashed, crushed, busted up.
Right.
Yep. And then the funny thing is we were looking for footprints because there's a lake bed there, and it's thinking that maybe it crossed or something through there, but it'd probably be too deep. It'd have to swim, but nothing, no footprints, no hair, nothing. We were looking.
Wow.
We were really wanting to go back to that house though, because that field, that was, it was kind of soft out there in those fields. And we wanted to go back, but that mom said we were never allowed back out there again, and we didn't.
I bet she come out and there's 3 dudes coming out of her daughter's room talking about they seen a Bigfoot in the yard. I'm sure that went over well.
She moved back into her mom. She went into the house. She told her mom she wasn't staying in the building no more.
Oh, really?
By herself no more.
Wow.
She goes, "Thanks. Now you got." This is what she said. "You assholes brought that thing to my house. Now it knows where I live."
Oh.
And we're like, "We didn't bring anything to your house. That thing it was coming with us no matter where we went." I said, "We just came here first." I don't think we would have made it back to Andy's house.
Right.
I mean, that thing only topped out 30 miles an hour. This thing has to run faster than that. It's keeping up to us, and it wasn't long before it was at that house.
I'm gonna be serious with you. The one that I seen in California. Now I think they're basically the same things as Bigfoots. Okay, I think they're slightly different, probably more or less like the difference between a panther and a cougar.
Right.
But
like a
that's
Yeti and a Sasquatch.
yeah, they're all kind of the same thing. But that's what I remember thinking as that thing ran away from us, and I watched it run through this field. That is the fastest animal on this planet.
Yeah, it can move through anything fast. That's the thing. Like I've seen
people don't
videos
understand
before.
it, man. People don't understand it because it goes through it like a hot knife through butter.
You know what that reminds me of a lot? And then this might sound crazy. Well, actually, nothing sounds crazy. But after the flood, they said that Nephilim survived the flood. There was Nephilim after the flood.
Right.
These big creatures, they smell horrible. Just like the giant of Kandahar. I don't know if you ever heard that story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I have buddies out there that were in the service, and the time that happened, they were stationed out there in Kandahar.
You think it's real?
Oh, yeah, dude said for sure. Soldiers didn't want to go out there no more. Now, today, they all make fun of it. Like the new guys out there, they said, "Oh, that's a bunch of crap. That's just a story they made up." I'm like, somebody died over that.
Yeah.
"Oh, can you prove it?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know, but you know." So they already found giant bones, and they were always brought to the Smithsonian, and then they left. Everything's taken to Antarctica. It's something I found out. Everything is taken to Antarctica, and we are not the only ones out there. The Russians own part of that. You know,
It's the only
China.
continent that if you go to visit, you got to get permission from 12 countries.
And you have to be escorted to where you're going to be at. You can't just go
Yeah,
wander
you can't.
around
Yeah, you
Antarctica.
can't just go check this thing out over here. Like they got to know full intentions of everything you're doing, and there will be somebody with you.
Well, in Norway, they found the giant skeleton, and the Smithsonian said, you know, we want the bones, and they're like, no, this is part of our heritage. These are giants; they are real, and this is, you know, they have in their museum a mock-up of the skeleton.
Right.
Standing up to the second story. You can go to that museum and see that skeleton. They said that skeleton mock-up is from the fossils that they found when they built that mock skeleton, and it's 2 stories tall. So you up in that, I mean, it's bigger than 2 stories actually, because the museum's kind of big.
Right.
So when you go to the second floor, that thing's standing up to the second floor. Now I don't know, they got smaller over time. I don't know if these Bigfoot are giants or Nephilim, the fallen children that actually just, you know, evolved to survive in the climate. They weren't as big, not as muscular as they, you know, but got smaller, so they didn't need as many calories to survive. And having all that muscle, you got to eat constantly. You know what I mean? But like they say, when they encountered that thing, it moved with agility and speed of nothing they've ever seen before. And they said the structure of it was just like muscular, masculine, and it just came down. It had red hair, and it just stunk, and it was just nasty. So there might be all different kinds of these things out there.
Right.
I mean, because what it says, you know, if you ever read or heard the book Enoch, when the fallen came down, they wanted to file the makers. What's the best way to offend the devil is his father, is to take his perfect creation and corrupt it. That is the best thing you could do to get back at him. So they started gene splicing, making these giants, and this is all in the book, like Tyrannosaurus Rex and all these crazy dinosaurs, like those were animals that they made. Those are like their pit bulls, like that, all that stuff. The Cyclops, all that shit's in the book of Kandahar, is removed from the Bible because it was just a little bit too far-fetched to put in there. And they just wanted to take it out and just put just the scriptures in. But these giants, these creatures, could be found petrified all around the world.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me. And they got smaller over time because they cut down all the great trees. So Devil's Plateau, Encounters of the Fourth Kind, the movie. Remember the big mountain that's flat on the top?
Oh yeah, it's a tree stump.
That's a tree stump.
Isn't that? I've watched some stuff on that, man, and that's one of them rabbit holes. But that is so neat, you know, just to open your mind to it, even if nothing else. If you're just listening to it, you know, for something that's very interesting. Some of these theories people have on some of this stuff, it's definitely worth your time.
That's all in the book of book of Kandahar. Those trees produce so much fruit and food it could feed the world. There were tribes that were against each other. They started cutting down their trees. They went to war and started cutting down their trees, cutting their food supply down.
Wow.
So these trees were cut down. Yeah, they cut the trees down, the massive trees, and then they started dying off and getting smaller through time as it progressed. You know, they went from, you know, massive sizes, and some sizes you can't even fathom. Like, it's not even real. Godzilla's, you know, size, you know what I'm saying? To like 12 to 13 foot. You know what I'm saying? Like, things changed, you know, but most sightings of these Bigfoot around 7 foot all the way up to 15 feet from what I've seen on TV. Well, this one I seen, I know is 7 foot because it wasn't as tall as the shed, but I don't think there's no basketball player running around on the field with a ghillie suit with a gorilla mask on, you know?
No.
You never know. Shaq's a little out there.
think he has some better shit to do than that. You know,
Well, you'll get shot in Myakka City real quick.
Oh yeah, real quick.
You don't those people, they're good people, but they like their guns and they don't want you on the damn property.
And that's why we were scared when those dogs were barking, because we're like, oh, because they have, all kind of Rottweilers out there and just big nasty dogs.
Right.
And we've been attacked by dogs because Randy used to run and get ready for fights. He used to like the fresh air out there. He'd go run. One time we got attacked by a Rottweiler. He just wasn't even chained up, all the way by the house. Quarter mile, all the way down the driveway, coming out on the main road, started trying to attack us. Only thing I had was a bicycle. I was like Mac. He was like Mac. I was a fat dude on the bike running behind him. But thank God, because that bike was the only thing that separated us from that dog. I finally lost interest. Yeah.
Well, bud, we are running out of time, but man, I appreciate you sharing your story with us, and
Absolutely.
It takes a lot for people to tell some of this stuff, but
Yeah.
this is one of the areas that I love. Is Myakka City. I've said it before, I will say it again. It is one of the most active places in the country. You just have to want to be able to, sustain out there in the bugs, because the bugs in the heat will make a normal person go inside. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
all right. Thank you, James, man.
That guy had some. I don't know about that encounter. I don't know if I'd go back into the woods.
Ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's something else, and I loved it. I was so glad that we were able to get somebody like that, and he literally hit me up this morning. This interview fell right into our lap, and we get our first interview really be a great one. Somebody who got attacked by a skunk ape with multiple people there.
And it's nice because it's a spot that we like to go to, so.
It's a spot that I've been to. I'm very familiar with exactly where he's talking at. I didn't want to interrupt him and, go into, the logistics of all of it, but I'm pretty sure I know exactly where he was talking about.
Yeah.
And there's been encounters in that same exact area since I've been looking into that area in 2013, I've probably got about 50-something reports out of Myakka.
Yeah.
And that's not one of the only ones of something attacking. I don't know what it is about that area, but a lot of people have hostile encounters with the skunk ape in Myakka City.
Yeah, well, that's a big, huge area, and there's a lot of tourism around there, so maybe they're just tired of all the activity.
There's a lot of mining been going on, and I think they're losing habitat.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is sad. There's also been a lot of expansion going on. They're building. I was down there a few months ago, and I seen where they were building 500,000 more homes. And I was just like, gee whiz. You're taking a place that was a beautiful, small American town, and it's just going to be paved over, you know what I mean? It's just going to be a black top before long, and all that's going to be ruined. But, that like I said, that report, and then the UFO thing,
Yeah.
So definitely interesting reports, and yeah, man, this is pretty much how the show's gonna go. So, how do you feel for our first episode?
I thought it was pretty good. He was pretty interesting and had a lot of information about a lot of different subjects, not just skunk ape.
Yeah, he kind of took the conversation elsewhere, which is fine. When you talk to these people who've had these life-changing encounters, their mind opens up to other stuff as well. And so I assume that some of our interviews are going to go exactly like this. We may end up talking about poltergeist before the end of an episode. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, why not?
So, Oh, all right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Check out the Skunk Ape Lives if you haven't done it yet. I gotta plug that.
Yeah,
And
it's a good one.
check us out on YouTube. Look me up at Bigfoot Stacy. And like I said, thank all you guys and gals, I should say, for tuning in and giving us a listen. Until next time.
All right, thanks everybody.
You're listening to the Skunk Ape Files.